Today, we're going to talk about state because being in the state of being with your specific person is something that is so much easier than you could ever imagine. And most people think of state as being something that you have to try really hard to do, that you have to constantly be observing for and acting out, but it actually isn't. And you don't need willpower to be in the state because the state is who you actually are. And so, yes, that means when we are going through our manifestation and it feels difficult, it feels hard, it feels like something that we have to consistently fight against, this isn't actually the state that we're trying to achieve. It's just an enlightened experience. And I'll explain both. So, your state, remember, is who you feel you are. So, your name, your address, what you do for a living, your hobbies, everything that you would accumulate or say as I am, as Neville Goddard would say, is your state. And thus, these things, if you were to really think about them, do not require your willpower. You just are these things. When was the last time you felt really exhausted being your name? And you would say, I've never done that, right? It doesn't feel exhaustive to be who you know that you are. But then simultaneously, remember, who you are is whatever you want it to be. You can be anything at any given time. And so when we are trying to get into the state, so think of the state of being obsessed over by our specific person, the state of being loved, the state of being desired, this sometimes feels difficult because we feel we are something and we're trying to do something else. But that is not how the state works. You do not need willpower for the state. Your state is a sense of being. When you are trying to project something in your reality of being something you feel you are not, you're basically putting on a mask. And so, what would Neville Goddard have to say about that mask that you're putting on? He would say, you feel you are something, that's your state of being, that's your true state, and you're trying to pretend to be something else. But it only feels difficult when you are pretending to be something that you're not actively embodying or being into the state of. So that's the idea that when we feel single, but we try to act or think loving thoughts or try to think about our specific person loving us. But essentially, the state is so much easier than that. It's just a state of acceptance and just a decision that we can make. So yes, meaning right now, your specific person, everything is available, not through the course of willpower, but through the course of acceptance. And willpower, if you've noticed, depletes throughout your day. Willpower is not something that we can essentially rely on in our manifestation because it goes away. If you're trying to will yourself to do something, throughout the day, it basically depletes, like we already mentioned. And so when we think about even someone who maybe starts a diet or starts a workout routine, when does it usually go wrong? Or think of someone who quits like smoking cigarettes or drinking or something. It usually goes wrong when at the end of the day. Think of as well, when you do work throughout the day, when does it go wrong, right? If you want to continue doing it, you would say at the end of the day, you start to take more breaks, you start to become exhausted, right? You've exerted and exhausted your willpower, but your willpower is always and will forever be an essence of your ego, of who you think you are and trying to become. But in essence, to your consciousness or your true sense of self, you don't need willpower at all. You're just making a decision. And if we can bring that into the state, then everything will be easier. And that's how you quantum leap to the reality that you want. It's your sense of being. Again, you don't feel exhausted to try to live at the place that you're living at, or act and be, or have fun and like your favorite food, right? It never feels exhausting to like your favorite food. That would be absolutely crazy. So when it comes to being with our specific person, it can sometimes still feel exhausting when we start to change our state. But remember, that's just because it's our ego trying to change or our ego not wanting to change itself. Because Neville Goddard speaks of the identity as once you become something into another, like the poverty individual who becomes wealthy, the single individual who gets into a relationship, that is a complete death to your previous self. And when we think about it in that way, of course, your ego wants to protect itself in the same way you would protect your life if someone was attacking you. But in essence, the ego is always a temporary thing and will forever be temporary. You've already been changing your ego throughout the years, throughout the decades. You just didn't even notice it yet. or maybe have not noticed it until now. Because if you think of the past, you've been very different throughout the years. Change has occurred and happened automatically, right? And sometimes it does come with a pushback. Like when we think of this idea of transitioning, again, the death of your old state is not a fun one, but that's where then we need this saturation, right? We need to saturate ourselves with the state. We need to remember it's not something that you are willing into existence, it's something that you are. And once you become this thing, you will automatically act it out. There will be no pushback, there will be no exhaustion. Think of your name again. You never feel like you are exhausted to be your name. It's just who you are. And so the exhaustion does come from being something that we feel we are not, but there is no necessity to ever do that. Just make the decision of being this new individual. And the wild thing is, it's just this awareness that we're trying to use willpower to change ourselves that actually creates the problems, if you will, in the first place. You are not changing yourself, you are becoming someone different. And I know I might have even said the word of changing, but you're just accepting a different conditioned consciousness that is available within you. Your God state has everything you could ever want, everything you could ever be, all available to you now. Okay, it's not going to be available to you. It's not something that you have to try to create or get to or do anything for. It's just a state of acceptance, just like how you've accepted your name, right? That's just who you are. And so if we want to then be with our specific person, we just need to accept it. We don't need to will, we don't need to fight, we don't need to force, we don't need to feel as if we're putting on a mask. We just have to be that thing through and through. And so what that looks like is just acting it out in your reality. That's usually the easiest way to do it. Now, you don't technically need actions. The decision all and always entirely happens within our mind. Like you being your name is just a decision that you've made, and now thus you only respond to that name outside of you. But actions and a physiological change can be the quickest way to that state change, and that's how I do it in order to change in the quickest possible way. So someone asked me even today in a coaching call, what would I do if I wanted to manifest communication if I was in no contact? And that's exactly what I would do. I would think about the state of being in contact, and I would just be that person, right? I would do whatever it feels, whatever it means to me to be someone in constant in communication. And I would actually bring this idea outside of just my specific person, because what you do in small things, you do in everything. You're not just your name to particular people and a different name to others, unless it's a nickname, but still, you always have your name. That's who you are. So if you want to be in communication, we can't just sometimes be in communication or affirm we're in communication and then go act in our reality in the opposite way. That's how we feel as if we're wearing our mask. And that's where it feels exhausting and willpower gets used, if you will. But you only have so much willpower because the willpower is of the ego, right? But if you were to decide and just be someone else and ask yourself, again, it will feel uncomfortable, but not exhausting to act it out. Because to be someone who's in communication with, you just think and do and act differently, right? If I were to brainwash you or change your mind right now into someone who's in communication, you would look at your reality differently. You would act in your reality totally differently than you would be or feel like you are doing now. Like it would be night and day difference. So if that's the case and we know that there would be a difference, why don't we just be that person? Why don't we just allow ourselves to be guided automatically of whatever kind of we feel like in the moment from that state? But remember, the state always comes first. And so you could even brainstorm right now, whatever it is that you want, whatever you want to be. How could I be this person? And the reason that this physiological action or change produces the greatest results is because we usually associate with the 3D. Now, you are not a 3D being at all. It's kind of like your dream. But in your dream, you do have these limiting beliefs that if you act certain things out, it means certain things, right? And that's also the bridge of events. So your bridge of events will always occur within the dream as well, with what makes sense to whatever you've crafted in your dream. Now, you craft something else in your dream, the bridge of events will look different. But still, acting on the bridge of events that's around you is thus something that's available to you from your state. And so what does it feel like if you were in communication with? What would you do? How would you act? What would you feel? If your specific person was obsessed with you, how would you act? What would you feel? What would you do? If you ran into someone random on the street, would you talk to them or would you not talk to them, right? If you saw someone you knew, would you reach out to them with a smile and a hug, or would you try to ignore them, right? Those are the things that feel uncomfortable because that's who we feel we are, right? But then the outside or onset of doing something different feels exhausting or hard facade or like a mask because we're identifying I'm this person and I'm trying to be something different. Don't be something different, just assume it. Don't try to change it. I guess the better phrase would be don't try to change it, assume something different. You're not changing yourself, you're embodying a different state. That's the easiest way to think of it. Because when I think of this idea of the states, like people ask me all the time, of like the state, like how does that work? How are we in it? Why does it feel exhausting? Or how do I stay in it? The state, again, is not something crazy that you're trying to achieve. It's just who you feel you are. And so change who you feel you are, and you will change everything around you. It's just a decision, not something that you have to actively work tirelessly for. Because I know this is hard, but it's something that I feel once you get it, that's how you're going to quantum leap to the outcome you want. But if you did have any questions, make sure to comment them down below. Remember, you can also reach out to me on my website at kyleaugustcoaching.com. And that's if you had any questions, thoughts, worries, whatever that you did not want to post publicly. But as always, thank you so much for stopping by today. If you know for a fact that you are the individual that's already with your specific person, leave a thumbs up on this video and then don't forget to subscribe. As always, again, thank you so much for stopping by today, and I'll see you in my next video tomorrow.